meeting coalition agreement.
And tonight, the political field has been redefined unrecognizably, and it is officially a two-horse race.
Just hours after ARC rivals Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka led in the signing of an elaborate pre-election deal, the Uhuru Ruto coalition fired back quickly, bringing in Musalia Mudavadi's UDF to form a revamped three-way pact.
Well, we have lined up for you a comprehensive coverage of the historic events that have set up the nation for a breathtaking presidential race. Also coming up in business and sports.
Retrenchment drama, new twist at KQ.
Going for glory, stars in Sekafa semi-finals.
Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime. I'm Linda Ogutu.
And I'm Eric Njoka.
We begin with the drama that has been unfolding here in Nairobi as the deadline for submission of coalition pacts drew closer. In the last 2 hours or so, UDF's Musalia Mudavadi, TNA's Uhuru Kenyatta and URP's William Ruto have signed a new pre-election pact and deposited it with the Registrar of Political Parties.
The three parties were forced to amend an earlier pact signed between Uhuru and Ruto, apparently in response to the Raila-Kalonzo deal. The three-way pact will now allow for presidential nominations that will pit TNA's Uhuru Kenyatta against UDF Musalia Mudavadi in a face-off.
However, URP's William Ruto remains the running mate, whatever the outcome of the proposed presidential nomination.
We are still on that, and just hours earlier, Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka led another signing ceremony that also included Charity Ngilu of NAC, Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula, and a host of smaller parties.
The pact, known as the Coalition for Reform and Democracy Code, was signed at a well-choreographed ceremony at the KICC grounds.
KTN's John Allen Namu takes a closer look at the deal and its power-sharing provisions.
Looking at the history between Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, the tune they danced to today may as well have been named Back to the Future. But that's looking too far back. Because of the politics of the past 1 year are anything to go by, this is the unlikeliest of coalitions. But a coalition for reform and democracy is well and truly in force, all history aside.
Tumeona udanganyifu wa kutosha. Tulianza 2002, tukadanganywa. It is a coalition of the willing.
The coalition, until mid-morning, composed of ODM, the Wiper Democratic Movement and Ford Kenya as its main signatories. But NARC party leader Charity Ngilu, making a grand entry into the signing ceremony, proved that even a few hours is a lifetime in politics. And while the coalition partners were bullish about their prospects,
we have brought to you a collegiate, a team of leaders with proven quality.
the VP chose a more conciliatory tone with respect to the Uhuru Ruto coalition.
Mimi nitakuwa mstari wa mbele kuhakikisha haya mahakama yetu hapa yana umuhimu mkubwa sana. Tunaweza kusuluhisha mambo yetu hapa na sio hate.
The deal itself binds the four main coalition partners to an equitable power-sharing agreement should they form the next government.
Tutakuwa na national delegates yetu. Tuniona hakuna haja sisi wenyewe tuanze kujitambulisha hapa mbele kabla ya kupata idhini ya delegates wote ambao ndio washika dao.
The ink on the coalition agreement has already dried, but what is yet to be set in stone is who will lead the coalition for the restoration of democracy, whether Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, or the retinue of other leaders who have joined this coalition. But sources privy to the details of the pact say that horse has already left the stable. According to the agreement, Raila will be CORD's presidential candidate with Kalonzo as his running mate. Ford Kenya will nominate the House Majority Leader. According to these sources, governmental posts will be shared out in the following ratio. ODM will get 40% of the posts, Wiper Democratic Party will get 30%, and Ford Kenya 20%, with the small parties in the coalition getting 10% of the posts. Apart from the 4 main partners, representatives of 9 smaller political parties also appended their signatures to the pre-election coalition pact. Inking of this deal automatically eliminates 3 would-be presidential candidates from the race.
I've also realized that one president cannot run this country alone.
And in light of the now tighter presidential race, that statement is truer than Cord imagines. John Alanamu, KTN Prime.
Well, it's been a long day. So based on the pre-election pacts deposited with the Registrar of Political Parties tonight, on our big question, we are asking you, do you think a Raila Kalonzo ticket will beat Uhuru Ruto at the ballot? Do you think a Raila Kalonzo ticket will beat Uhuru Ruto at the ballot? Please send your yes or no comments to the number 8040, and we will sample some of your comments at the end of this live newscast. Linda?
So the political marriage is only the latest twist in the love-hate relationship between the Prime Minister and the Vice President. The two politicians have hardly seen eye to eye on many issues following their acrimonious divorce in ODM, Kenya, ahead of the 2007 general election. So is this just another union of convenience, or has something really changed this time? KTN's Joageo now looks back on the dramatic journey that has finally brought the bitter rivals together.
They go back many years, not always in one basket, but Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Amolo Odinga have both straddled Kenya's political scene for decades, albeit in different positions at different times. March 18th, 2002, and Raila Odinga, the hardened political detainee who had 10 years earlier made his debut in Parliament, was finally linking up with KANU, the party that he had blamed for his political woes. On KANU's front bench was Kalonzo Musyoka, who was doing his second decade in politics. They suddenly found themselves in the Liberal Democratic Party, the makeshift outfit that later teamed up with the NAK to found the formidable coalition NAC that swept KANU out of power. Fast forward 2007, and the two politicians found themselves yet again in one basket, ODM Kenya, that had metamorphosed from a lobby group fighting against the proposed new constitution into a fully fledged political party. The two quarreled over the presidential nomination before Kalonzo ran away with the party as Raila acquired a hitherto unknown party, ODM.
Tungejua sasa msalini ni nani? Tumtaje? Hebu nisikie tena. Nisikie tena.
Throughout the campaigns of 2007, Kalonzo launched scathing attacks on Raila, accusing him of being power hungry, and Raila answered in kind.
Nataka kutangaza nikiwa Machakos. Kibaki akiwa pande hii, Raila akiwa pande hii, Kalonzo anapita hapo katikati.
Kalonzo went on to lose the election. But in the ensuing chaos, he quickly stitched a pact with President Kibaki, fulfilling his kupitia katikati promise as he became the country's 11th vice president. But with Raila securing a deal as President Kibaki's co-principal in the Grand Coalition, the ODM Kenya rivalries were rekindled with renewed ferocity as the two fought over who between them had the bigger job. From the seating arrangements to government duties, the two engaged each other in a bitter power contest.
Kuelewana kwa pande yetu sisi tunajua ya kwamba Rais Kibaki pande ile nyingine na waziri mkuu pande ile nyingine. Kwa hivyo alafu makamu yake inakuja hapa chini.
Yule ambaye anasikia kwamba Kalonzo akizungumza anamdhuru, mimi nakuomba msamaha.
Seemingly partisan clarifications from government officials did not help matters as the VP and the Premier continued to spar on the campaign trail even after the protocol confusion was cleared.
Na waomba wenzangu, hawa ndugu wengine ambao wanataka kugombania kiti cha urais, wanipe ruhusa niangushe mtu mmoja anaitwa Raila Amolo Odinga, Kenya ipate amani.
Indeed, even the latest alliance appears to have been forced on the vice president by his allies who kept pushing him towards his orange rival.
Yeye ndio aliondoka ODM Kenya alipoona kwamba atashindwa.
For the last 5 years, they have quite literally quarreled over everything, from the red carpets to the sitting arrangements. But now Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka find themselves yet again holed up in a marriage of convenience. But with 3 months yet to go before the general election, even they know many pitfalls could yet lie ahead. Joageo, KTN.
Well, thanks, Joe, for that. Now, you're talking about political marriages, you're talking about political alliances, you're talking about forming pacts. This has been so confusing for the country, where one lies with a twist of love and hate, who joins who becomes the other's running mate. This has been a decision that is being faced off by political leaders in the country who want to be your next president. And it's you who's going to choose them to become your next president. Now, we are taking you to Kisumu, and Aaron Ochieng is standing by just to tell us a reaction of what has happened today. Aaron?
Yes, we are in the lakeside city of Kisumu, just a few hours after Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka signed a pact to enter into the coming general elections together. Just like we did in Eldoret yesterday, we are seeking the opinion of residents of Kisumu on how well they think Prime Minister and Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka will work out come the next general election.
The Wiper Party has decided to do the right thing. This is what we thought could happen, and that one is going to change the shape of the politics in this country.
We are very happy that Kalonzo is back for us. In fact, before we thought that we are not going to win since Kalonzo went away. But now he's back, we are very happy.
About Raila and Kalonzo, we all must agree that in politics there is no permanent friendship, neither is there permanent enmity. They worked together some time back, they parted ways, they went their separate ways, and now they are back together. Let's give them a chance.
This time tusiwe na wasiwasi na yeye, sababu amekuwa all the way kigeugeu, anasema hivi, anasema vile, lakini round hii amekubaliana na Raila.
Vile wameungana na Kalonzo, na Kalonzo anasema na atendi, anafanya kinyume. Hiyo ndio imeleta tumuite watermelon. Sasa sioni kama hiyo muungano ni mzuri.
Mimi napinga kwa sababu tukiangalia story ya Kalonzo kuanzia kitambo mpaka saa hii, yeye ni kigeugeu. Hata saa hii Raila chunge kabisa.
Aaron Ochieng live from Kisumu. Many thanks, Aaron Ochieng. They're giving us an idea of what the residents there think about the agreement that was signed this morning between Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. Now, the assembly at the KICC also triggered memories of the euphoria that attended to the formation of the National Rainbow Coalition in 2002. Interestingly, the key players at today's ceremony were practically the same as those of 2002, save for President Mwai Kibaki, the late Professor George Saitoti, and the late Michael Kijana Wamalwa. And the common political enemy, just like in 2002, remains Uhuru Kenyatta. Is history repeating itself? KTN's Ferdinand Omondi has the story of the return of the rainbow.
2012, KICC, the team Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka and Moses Wetangula. In attendance, Charity Ngilu. The team shall be known as the Coalition for Restoration of Democracy, CORD, the aim to win the presidency at the expense of Uhuru Kenyatta. Fast rewind to 2002. The team Mwai Kibaki, Raila Odinga, Kijana Wamalwa, George Saitoti and Charity Ngilu. In attendance, Kalonzo Musyoka. The team was known as the National Rainbow Coalition. The aim to win the presidency at the expense of Uhuru Kenyatta. They came together 10 years ago to deny Uhuru Kenyatta the presidency. Now they are reunited under similar circumstances, save for Mwai Kibaki, who is retiring as president, and Wamalwa Kijana and Saitoti, who have since passed on. The common factor here is Uhuru Kenyatta. In 2002, Raila Odinga dissolved his National Development Party and joined KANU in a merger that he expected would lead him to State House, only for President Moi to endorse Uhuru Kenyatta as his preferred candidate.
Na huyu ni huyu mzee Uhuru Kenyatta.
There come a time when the nation is more important than an individual.
That declaration led to a major fallout in KANU. Raila walked out on Moi to establish the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP. Together with Mwai Kibaki's Democratic Party, Ngilu's Social Democratic Party, and Kijana Wamalwa's Ford Kenya, they formed the National Rainbow Coalition. NAC also lured Moi's lieutenants Kalonzo and Saitoti, who also felt let down by Moi's endorsement of Uhuru at the expense of a democratic process. The Rainbow Coalition went ahead to secure a landslide victory over Uhuru by over 2 million votes, but hardly had the new government begun its work than power wrangles rocked the coalition partners. The fallout culminated in the 2005 constitutional referendum when the government was split down the middle. The North side, led by Raila Odinga, won the referendum. For the last 10 years, members of the Rainbow Alliance have been pulling in different directions. But today, Kalonzo announced that he would form an alliance with his sworn rival Raila. And on this day, lo and behold, Charity Ngilu, Kalonzo's political nemesis in Ukambani politics since time immemorial, sat together with him at one table to join one alliance. In 2002, the National Rainbow Coalition won the race to State House. 10 years later, the remnants of that coalition are back together for the same purpose. But will they make lightning strike twice? Ferdinand Mondi, KTN, Nairobi.
Let's keep on talking about parks. And the Kenya National Congress and the Party of Action also joined in the last-minute rush to beat the deadline for depositing pre-election pacts at the registrar's office. The two presidential aspirants, Peter Kenneth and Raphael Tuju, signed their pre-election pact shortly after the Gatanga Member of Parliament cancelled his scheduled meeting with Deputy Prime Minister Musalia Mudavadi. The two leaders said that their pre-election agreement came naturally, citing that they share the same vision for all Kenyans. The two, however, failed to disclose who would run as the presidential candidate.
This coalition gives Kenyans an opportunity to break from the past. This coalition gives Kenyans an opportunity to break from all the evils that have continued to ail us. This coalition breaks Kenya, breaks from the past in terms of tribalism.
Ningependa nikujulisheni kwenu viongozi ambao tumeungana hapa siku ya leo kutoka vyama mbalimbali.
Mimi ni mgombeaji wa rais kwa hiyo tiketi. Na tuna wengi marafiki ambao tunatarajia kujiunga na sisi. Mheshimiwa Eugene Wamalwa na mimi ndio presidential candidates kwa hii vyama, na sisi wenyewe tumekubaliana mbinu ambayo tutatumia ili kufikia presidential candidate mmoja.
Hawa ni marafiki ambao wamekuja kwa hiari yao. These are free people of goodwill.
So after all the signing ceremonies, what does the political future exactly look like with all the coalitions being formed? Let's take a closer look at the coalitions that have been formed so far. The first coalition agreement was signed between TNA's Uhuru Kenyatta and URP's William Ruto. That agreement was put to paper yesterday at the Jivanji Gardens. That a coalition that brought together TNA and URP as they head towards the next general election. And the second coalition was signed today at the Kenyatta International Conference Center. That is an agreement that saw Prime Minister Raila Odinga come into a coalition with Kalonzo Musyoka. Of course, that is a coalition that was formed this morning that brought in Moses Wetangula as well. Well, the second coalition agreement saw the inclusion of several other parties and brought different political leaders, and this is an agreement that saw us see the inclusion of Charity Ngilu and of course Omingo Magara in a second coalition that is heading towards the next general election. They hope that this is a coalition that will take them to the State House. The third agreement was signed late this afternoon, and that was between NVP, New Ford Kenya and FPK. It is an agreement that brought together Eugene Wamalwa, Nicholas Biwott and Cyrus Jirongo in what they said was giving Kenyans a third option, even as the number of coalition agreements was rising today as they all raced to beat the deadline. Late this afternoon, another coalition agreement was signed between Peter Kenneth and Raphael Tuju at Mayfair Hotel here in Nairobi, and that brought together the Poa Party and Kenya National Congress. The most dramatic one, of course, that we have seen later in the day, this is an occurrence that developed in the last couple of minutes or so. As this has come in as Musalia Mudavadi has gotten into the Uhuru-Ruto alliance. But all these coalitions really have left one major presidential candidate on her own, so to speak. That is Martha Karua. KTN's Rita Tinina now looks at the options that are available for Martha Karua, even as we head closer to the general election.
As politicians rushed to beat the deadline for the formation of coalitions, one player was missing in action in the last-minute dash to ink political deals. NAK Kenya presidential aspirant Martha Karua spent the coalition D-Day in Thindegwa, Kiambu, where she attended a funeral. Karua, who has cut herself the image of a political lone ranger, has kept away from hotel meetings and late-night negotiations in the search for the winning coalition. And with the curtains now down on the coalition season, Martha Karua is the last one standing.
Mtu aje, kuja na uje na watu yako. Tutaonana kwa kiwanja.
When Martha Wangari Karua walked out on President Daniel Moi some years ago, she was making a political statement. But it was not just a one-off political stunt. Over the years, the 55-year-old Gishugu Member of Parliament has proved to be her own man, or woman for that matter.
Martha Karua is the only man in PNU. Everybody else is a flower girl.
With a characteristic menacing look, some have described her as arrogant, principled, Kenya's Iron Lady. Or is she? During the 2007 presidential election results fiasco at the KICC, Karua was one of the greatest defenders of President Mwai Kibaki. But she was later to ditch the Kibaki cabinet in 2009.
I feel my position as minister is untenable.
Relegated to the back bench, Karua still kept the pressure on the government, many a times swimming against the current in parliamentary debates, but managing to hold her ground nevertheless. In April, she launched her presidential bid. And even though the pollsters have not given her any favorable ratings compared to her political rivals, Karua kicked off a campaign with her sights firmly set on becoming the first woman president of Kenya.
Martha Karua ameota doto akiwa State House.
With the curtains now down on the coalition season, Martha Wangari Karua has once again lived up to her reputation, that of standing out of the crowd. Question is she keeping away from everyone on principle, or are her principles keeping everyone away from her? Rita Tinina, KTN Prime.
Thanks, Rita, for that. Now, to get the facts right, political analyst Martin Olo is in studio. Thank you very much for joining us. We've seen the stories that are going on air right now. What are your thoughts about the pre-election facts, especially right now for Raila Kalonzo, or what they are calling the Raila-Lonzo pact? What's your thoughts?
First, I think you've described it well as KTN. That's drama, high drama, and we saw rashes, we saw quick deals, we saw decisions that may not have been well thought out. But the fact is, we're here with pre-election coalitions, And we shall also be here with post-election coalitions. That's what our constitution allows, and that's what is likely to be the case because of the nature of our politics and because of the divisive nature of our politics. Coalitions become necessary.
Did you see it coming? Did you see this coming?
Absolutely, they were coming. Just about who was going to be with who was an issue, but coalitions were coming because, again, it is in the constitution, it is in the law. It allows you to pull together, it allows you to find ways in which you can then attract various votes and so on. So coalitions even of people, coalitions of parties, coalition of women, coalition of youth, those are coalitions that are necessary in politics.
Let's not forget the Lone Rangers in this whole scenario. Yeah. We have Martha Karua who has decided to go it alone.
Right.
What are their chances of winning?
I don't think it's a chance of winning for them, it's a chance of participating. And I think that they are saying we're in for the long haul. As to whether they have chances, I think every politician will tell you, I'm winning. But deep in their own souls, they know that they are not winning. The key issue here is the choices people are making, they have to live with them. So when you choose to go into a coalition, it means there are certain sacrifices you need to make. If you wanted to be president, you step down for somebody else. Those are choices. Those who are going into a whole hog are saying, wait, we want to be on the ballot, we want to make our name part of the history.
It's not over yet. We have pre-election deadline, which was today. We also have those who want their running mate. The deadline is in January 4th.
Right.
What do you think? Could this change the political landscape in the country?
Absolutely. The haggling is going to be there, apart from one coalition which has already said, well, the position of presidency will have a runoff or will have a primary, but the other one is fixed. The rest will really have issues. They will have boardroom discussions. They will have a lot of issues to consider. So there is going to be some element of continuous discussions. The point here is we are here to see coalitions and perhaps jostling. What is the benefit that this brings to the citizen? I say two things. One, you could easily have an easier way in which we can organize our elections and maybe get out of it. But there is also a possibility that you could be shortchanged because you might get somebody who, if you were given a chance, you would not otherwise want, but coalitions bring it.
I don't want you to go to number 10, but let's just be fair here. Should the pacts see March 4th, what's their chance, or what do you foresee, an outright win or an outright runoff?
I think that we've seen two things here. One, that in 2002, and the analysis are very spot on, there was certain elements that wanted to bring reforms. Those elements seem to have regrouped in the Coalition for Restoration of Democracy. Now, in 2002, you had another breed of what you would have called the Kanu succession issues. That breed had Uhuru Kenyatta, had Musalia, and Ruto was one of the campaigners. So basically, you're seeing a replay of 2002 here, and you're seeing a winning team perhaps coming in with a message of reforms.
Thank you very much, Martin. Martin Olo, political analyst, giving us the facts. Now moving on, 11, that's just how many vice presidents Kenya has had since independence, most of whom were dismissed as mere sycophants of the reigning presidents. After the March 4th election, Kenya could usher in a deputy president with a different presidential personality, I beg your pardon, and influence from the previous ones. Tonight, KTN's Asha Mwilu takes us through the metamorphosis of the Kenyan vice presidency and why this election could be providing a surprising difference.
By 4th of January, all presidential candidates will have officially named their running mates. Unlike previous elections, the rules for the 2013 ballot have changed. For the first time, Kenyans will be voting for packages when it comes to the presidency and the deputy presidency. Therefore, there will be no Lone Rangers going for the top seat. Already, the political arena is gradually taking form, with duos like Uhuru Ruto, Raila Kalonzo confirming their coalitions. Key in forming such pacts is the personality of the running mates. This could drastically change the type of deputy presidents to come.
Show the world that some of them have been wrong.
Let's begin with a trip down memory lane, when Kenyans could only vote in the president, and traditionally, the vice president would be the commander-in-chief's first golden appointee. The personality of the second highest executive would in turn, almost in all circumstances, complement that of the president. We saw the gentlemanly and non-confrontational, the appeasing diplomat, the submissive number two, the laid-back reformist, the colorless vice president, the eloquent president-in-waiting, and even the perceived fence-sitter. While others may argue that vice presidents under previous regimes were forced to be ceremonial figures, subsequently retreating to their subtle cocoons, some dispute that Kenya's presidents simply use the universal litmus of choosing vice presidents or running mates. Take the US for example. The cool and collected Joe Biden has been termed the perfect balance to President Obama's enigmatic personality. And even the ideologically driven running mates such as Al Gore still created the needed harmony when paired with the likes of Bill Clinton. Back to Kenya's 2013 election, and the candidates already floated as running mates are equally, if not more charismatic than the presidential aspirants. A clear indication that the traditional approach to selecting the running mate is slowly fading. Perhaps the essence of having the candidate for the deputy president who is just as qualified as the presidential aspirant emanates from the provisions of the new constitution. Well, unlike previously where the vice president would not be the automatic successor in case the president died, under the new law, the deputy president would actually take over automatically under such a circumstance and complete the remainder of the term. Now, in light of this, now the public scrutiny of these running mates will be a crucial determinant to who ultimately wins the presidential race. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Welcome back to the program. Now, former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan has urged the business community to support their employees to register as voters, saying that the low turnout could hamper the general election itself.
Annan spoke at the conclusion of his two-day visit to Kenya.
Voter registration process across the country is commendable, but efforts must be intensified if the target of 18 million voters is to be met. The panel urges Kenyans, in particular the youth, to register as soon as possible and not wait until the last moment, given the tight deadline for the completion of this process.
Sisi tulichofanya ni kufanya mazungumzo na pande zote mbili baada ya vurugu zile za 2008 mpaka zikatoa katiba mpya ambayo wananchi wenyewe wa Kenya, nchi wenyewe wa Kenya walipiga kura na kuiafiki. Tunaendelea kutoa ushauri juu ya utekelezaji wake katika vipengele vyote vya ile agreement walio sign. Na ndio kazi tunaendelea kuifanya mpaka hivi sasa. Kazi kubwa ya kuzuia vurugu isijirudie ni wenye nchi wenyewe wa Kenya, sio wananchi tu, wenye nchi ya Kenya pamoja na serikali yao na vyama vyao vya siasa.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you just hang around and don't register, you are useless. No, true. You can't be useful. You can't be any use because you are not participating in the development of Kenya. And if you are hanging around just eating, I mean, surely you can't be very meaningful or useful at all. So think of it, what you are doing and why you are not registering.
Well, the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations kicked off countrywide with candidates sitting for their mathematics and English language papers. The candidates were under strict scrutiny by examination supervisors, especially after the introduction of the Kenya National Examination Council Bill.
But as Catherine Omwanto reports, private schools are raising the alarm over the new Form 1 selection process.
It's 7 a.m. in Eldoret, and these candidates take a sip ahead of the most important examination in their 8 years of primary school. Since the passing of the Kenya National Examination Council Bill of 2012 that provides for a 10-year jail term to anyone caught cheating, examination supervisors did not take any chances. Those behind bars for unrelated reasons were not left out of the big test. And neither were adult candidates. They may have missed out on their primary education when they were younger, but they are taking this second chance in life seriously. According to the Kenya National Examination Council, over 800,000 candidates were scheduled to write this year's exam, and many of them were upbeat. However, there is a concern about the Form 1 selection come 2013. The new Form 1 selection guidelines have done away with the quota system that up until this year gave candidates from public schools 83% of positions in national schools and those from private schools the remaining 17%. This had caused discontent among parents and members of the Private Schools Association who accused the Ministry of Education of discrimination. This time the selection process will be a little different.
4 slots to the top 4 pupils in each district.
The contention is that in some districts, the top 4 candidates could come from public schools and essentially lock out their private school counterparts.
The ideal situation would be to look at 1, the quality of performance by private schools.
But in Mombasa, this group of candidates will have no results to talk about. The 35 pupils simply could not sit for the exams after their school director went missing. The candidates claim that the director did not register them with the Kenyan National Examination Council, a sad twist to a generally incident-free exercise. Catherine Omwando, KTN.
Good evening. You're watching your home of business, Prime Business Today, on this 4th day of December 2012. My name is Boni Tunya. Now, with a court ruling directing their reinstatement, over 400 former employees of the national carrier Kenya Airways trooped back to work Tuesday morning. However, the return to work was not all smooth, as KTN's Michael Karanja reports on the return of ex-employees at the Pride Center.
Early Tuesday morning, and retrenched workers of Kenya Airways make their way to the Pride Center. It has been a torrid 4 months for the staff, who have fought their retrenchment both in court and in Parliament. The workers were reinstated but immediately sent on paid leave, as the airline management said it was working out logistical issues on where to place them.
But I will be shuffling you as you come in.
We take this opportunity to thank you as the union for accepting our members back to work. They are very appreciative. Would however also like to bring to you the attention that some of our members unfortunately are unwell and they could not reach here. Some are probably out of the country, they could not reach here. So we would like to request you to accommodate our members.
The national carrier had in September shed 578 jobs to control a wage bill that had doubled from 6 billion shillings in 2007 to 13.4 billion shillings last year. The restructuring exercise initiated by Kenya Airways was expected to save the airline an estimated 1.2 billion shillings in staff payments annually. But a court order late on Monday halted the process, which saw close to 400 workers streaming back to work on Tuesday. But even then, the return to work papers read redeployment, and this caused discomfort.
It seems like KQ management are working overnight to come up with some letters that were not auguring well with us, because there's no way you can give somebody a restatement letter that says that you go on a paid leave until further notice. Then when you come back, you be redeployed. There's no way, because it's not within the law.
For now, the fear of a turbulent future for the airline is real. An increased wage bill stands in its way on return to profitability after posting a 4.8 billion shilling half-year loss. However, a KQ official who sought anonymity said the severance package offered upon retrenchment will be stopped upon reinstatement. But what was expected to be good news for returning KQ staffers on Tuesday was met by suspicion. The letters they came to sign were supposed to read reinstatement, but instead read redeployment. This amid suspicion that KQ management has gone to court to appeal yesterday's ruling by the High Court. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
Murmurs of discontent have erupted in Chemelil Sugar Company's growing zone after its closure for annual maintenance amidst huge debts owed to farmers and employees. Farmers grew skeptical of its management and debts, whose genesis is maintenance session in 2009 that did not fully deliver the expected results. KTN's Nyanza reporter Fred Omulo has the details.
Chemelil Sugar is no longer at ease. Farmers have been trooping to the media with tales of unpaid debts for cane supplied that stretch as far back as April this year. But the managing director claims the juggernaut is not insolvent.
Our biggest and major complaint is about the non-payment by Chemelil Sugar Company, and we are worried. We are worried, Lord, as farmers, that how are we going to be paid our money, and the company has been closed.
We appreciate that any one time an organization like this gets sick, but the approach we have is to treat the organization so that we can have sustainability.
However, the fact that the hitherto stable firm is now unable to pay its debts has shaken many here. Where did all the money go?
The 2009 maintenance which was carried out did not give the requisite results that were expected, and therefore we were not able to generate funds for the subsequent maintenance.
For now, the top management is keeping a brave face but looks ahead to a difficult task convincing stakeholders of the firm's stability. Despite the management's position that all machinery is to blame for the lack of funds, suspicion still reigns in the Chemelil sugar belt, especially now as the election inches closer. From Kisumu County, I am Fredo Mulo.
Many thanks, Fred. Now, an additional 120 megawatts of power will be now injected in Kenya's national electricity grid. This follows the commissioning of the Kipevu power plant by President Mwai Kibaki.
The diesel-powered plant is another step towards reducing the country's reliance on expensive emergency power. It will add to the national grid 120 megawatts of power, which equates to 10% increase in Kenyan's total generating capacity. The plant was constructed at a cost of 10 billion shillings, raised through a public infrastructure bond floated by Kenyan in 2009.
To enhance energy security in the country, we need to have a healthy generation mix. Hence, the plant we are commissioning today.
It is a good example of what can be attained through mobilizing domestic savings of our people for long-term investments.
The new plant can be powered by both gas and diesel, and its commissioning puts into focus Kenyan's capacity expansion.
Ladies and gentlemen, a robust economic growth coupled with fast rising population levels experienced in our country have accelerated the demand for electricity.
Kenyan has also commissioned planning for the 600 megawatt coal plant and 495 megawatt liquefied natural gas plant. The cabinet recently gave its approval for these two projects. Philip Keitan, KTN Business Today.
Kenya's Lone Ranger Nikita Dauda maintained her winning ways after she qualified for the semi-finals with a deserved 6-1, 6-3 win over Harley Hutchington of Norway. 8th seed Sarah Saju was the first player to qualify for the quarters after she defeated seeded Elena Machakova of Russia 6-4, 6-3 in a tough match of girls singles. In other round 1 matches played, Alina Hutchinson of Great Britain breezed past Melissa Brown of Kenya 6-love, 6-love, while Alice McGignity of Britain defeated Yashvi Radia 6-love, 6-love. The tournament continues. Elsewhere, the annual Obama Cup was held in Nambale, where tournament favorites Kolongolo FC lost 3-1 to Mount Scope in a thrilling match. The fast-paced match acted as a curtain raiser towards the annual event that begins on the 9th to run up to the 29th of this month, where the final will be played at the same venue. Meanwhile, former Bayern Munich defender Samuel Osei Kufuor will grace this year's Safaricom Sportsman of the Year awards. The former Black Star player is expected in the country in the early hours of Thursday morning ahead of the 9th edition of the award, set for a Nairobi restaurant later in the evening.